a cold message in a warm season. The scent of fresh pine filled my Denver home, mingling with the faint sweetness of cinnamon candles flickering on the mantel. It was the 23rd of December, and I stood in the glow of a 9-foot Douglas fir, its branches heavy with ornaments I'd spent weeks choosing. Each one told a story. A tiny ceramic snowman from my childhood in Franklin, Tennessee, a glass star Lucas and I bought on our first date, a hand-painted bulb from a local Denver artisan. This Christmas was supposed to be perfect, my first time hosting my family in the home I'd built with Lucas, my partner of 4 years. I could already picture it. My parents, David and Susan, laughing over mulled wine. My brother, Ethan, sneaking extra cookies. The 5 of us gathered around the dining table, sharing stories under the twinkle of string lights. I wanted to recreate the magic of my childhood Christmases, those golden days when our family felt unbreakable. But then my phone buzzed, and everything changed. I was wrapping a gift for Ethan, a leather-bound sketchbook for his graphic design passion, when the notification came. A voicemail from Dad. I assumed it was another last-minute change to their travel plans from Asheville, North Carolina, where they still lived in the sprawling craftsman home I'd helped them keep. I pressed play, the phone on speaker, and continued folding the wrapping paper, expecting his usual booming voice, maybe a joke about forgetting to pack Mom's favorite scarf. Instead, his words hit like a winter gust. "Emily, this is your father. Christmas is off. Don't expect us. You'll hear from my lawyer after the holidays. Do not call back." The message ended with a click, cold and final. My hands froze, the ribbon slipping from my fingers. I replayed it, certain I'd misheard. But there it was again, each syllable sharp, deliberate, like a blade slicing through the warmth of my carefully planned holiday. My heart sank, a heavy stone in my chest. What had I done to deserve this? I sank onto the couch, the Christmas lights blurring through sudden tears. Lucas found me there, still clutching my phone. The wrapping paper crumpled at my feet. What's wrong?" he asked, his voice soft but urgent. I couldn't speak. Just handed him the phone and played the message again. His jaw tightened as he listened, his hazel eyes darkening with disbelief. "This is unbelievable," he said, kneeling beside me. "After everything you've done for them?" His words echoed my thoughts, but they couldn't erase the sting of Dad's voice or the weight of his threat. A lawyer. Christmas canceled. It wasn't just a holiday ruined. It was a declaration that I'd crossed some unforgivable line. But what line? I racked my brain, replaying recent conversations. Had I pushed too hard when I questioned their plan for a Bahamas cruise? Was it the hesitation in my voice when Mom asked for help with their property taxes? I'd always been the dutiful daughter, the one who never said no. So why this? To understand the depth of that moment, you have to know where I came from. Growing up in Franklin, Tennessee, our family was the kind you'd see in a Hallmark movie. Our 2-story colonial on Maple Street was the brightest on the block every December, draped in twinkling lights that Dad spent hours perfecting. Mom would bake her famous pecan shortbread, the kitchen warm with the scent of butter and sugar. Ethan and I would race downstairs on Christmas morning, our matching plaid pajamas, a tradition Mom insisted on, even when we were teenagers. Dad would hand out mugs of his secret recipe. Hot chocolate, really just store-bought mix with a splash of peppermint schnapps for the adultsend. We'd tear into presents he'd arranged under the tree like a work of art. Those mornings felt sacred, a bubble of joy that nothing could pierce. We'd pile into the car at dusk, driving through Nashville to see the holiday lights at Cheekwood Estate, singing Jingle Bells off-key, stopping at Loveless Café for hot biscuits and cocoa. Those memories were my anchor, the reason I poured so much into this Christmas. I wanted to give that magic back to my family, to prove we could still be that close. But the voicemail shattered that illusion. It wasn't just about Christmas. It was the culmination of years of unspoken tensions, of sacrifices I'd made without question, of love that had started to feel like a transaction. I thought back to my childhood, to the Christmas wish journal I kept as a kid. Every December, I'd sit by the fireplace, a spiral notebook in my lap, and write down my hopes for the year ahead. "I wish Dad gets that big deal he's working on," I wrote at 10, after overhearing him stress about a client. "I wish Mom's book club makes her happy," I scribbled at 12, noticing her quiet moments. I wish Ethan and I never fight, I added at 15, after a silly argument over who got the last cookie. That journal was my way of holding my family together, of believing my love could fix anything. I'd stopped writing in it years ago, but standing in my Denver living room, I felt that same childish urge to fix this, to make everyone happy again. But something inside me shifted. I wasn't that little girl anymore. I thought about Franklin's Pumpkinfest, another tradition that defined our family. Every October, we'd wander through downtown Franklin, the air crisp with the scent of roasted pumpkin seeds, kids running through hay mazes, and local bands playing on Main Street. Dad would buy us caramel apples, and Mom would snap photos of Ethan and me posing with oversized pumpkins. Those days felt like proof that we were special, a family that could weather anything. But now, I saw the cracks I'd ignored. Even back then, Dad's laughter sometimes hid stress late-night calls about deals gone wrong. Mom's smiles often masked worry bills piling up on the kitchen counter. I'd been too young to understand, but those moments were the seeds of the financial strain that would later entangle me. As I sat there, Lucas's hand warm on mine, I realized this wasn't just about a canceled holiday. It was about a family dynamic that had shifted so gradually I hadn't noticed until it was too late. I'd spent years trying to preserve the magic of those Franklin Christmases, but at what cost? I thought of the $400,000 mortgage I'd co-signed for my parents' Asheville home 6 years ago, when their credit crumbled after a string of bad investments. I thought of the smaller loans, $5,000 here, $3,000 there, given without hesitation because I believed it was my duty. I thought of the way Dad's voice hardened when I asked about their spending, or how Mom's eyes filled with tears when I hesitated to help. Love had become a ledger, and I was always in debt. But in that moment, something crystallized. I didn't want to beg for their forgiveness or chase their approval. I didn't want to be the daughter who fixed everything, only to be punished for asking questions. I picked up my phone, my fingers trembling, and typed one word to Dad. Understood. I hit send, and a strange calm settled over me. I wasn't arguing, I wasn't pleading. I was choosing myself, maybe for the first time. Lucas looked at me, his eyes searching. "What's next, Em?" he asked. I took a deep breath, the pine scent grounding me. "I'm done being their safety net," I said. "Tomorrow I'm calling a lawyer." That night, as I lay awake, the Christmas lights casting soft shadows on the ceiling, I felt a mix of grief and resolve. Grief for the family I thought we were, for the traditions that now felt like relics. Resolve to reclaim my life, to build a future where love didn't come with strings. I didn't know what the next days would bring: anger, silence, or more threats. But I knew one thing. I was ready to face it. This Christmas wouldn't be what I'd planned, but maybe it would be the start of something new. A season of truth, of boundaries, of finding my own light. And for the first time in years, that felt like enough. Signing my name, binding my heart. The ink was still wet on the mortgage papers when Mom pulled me into a hug in the parking lot of the Asheville bank. Her arms trembled, her lavender perfume enveloping me as she whispered, "You've saved our home, Emily. You're our miracle." I was 28, standing in the crisp North Carolina air, my breath visible in the February chill. I'd just co-signed a $400,000 mortgage for my parents, David and Susan, to keep the Craftsman house on Sunset Drive that held every memory of our family's golden years. Dad clapped me on the shoulder, his grin wide but his eyes tired. "We'll take it from here, kiddo," he said, his voice rough with gratitude, or so I thought. I believed I was doing what any loving daughter would do. I believed it was temporary, a bridge over a rough patch. But that signature, scrawled in black ink, wasn't just a formality. It was a chain. One I wouldn't feel the weight of until years later, when a voicemail from Dad would shatter my world. Back in 2016, I was still finding my footing in Denver, where I'd moved for a marketing job after college. My apartment was a shoebox, shared with a roommate who left dishes in the sink, but I was proud of my independence. I'd grown up in Franklin, Tennessee, where our family was the picture of suburban perfection: Christmas lights brighter than anyone's, Sunday barbecues in the backyard, trips to Nashville's Cheekwood Estate for holiday displays. Dad was a real estate developer, his laugh as big as his dreams, closing deals that kept our two-story colonial humming with warmth. Mom, a part-time librarian, filled our home with books and baked pecan shortbread that neighbors begged for. My younger brother Ethan and I were the center of their world, or so it seemed. But when the 2008 financial crisis hit, Dad's business took a beating. Properties sat unsold, commissions dried up, and the parents I'd always seen as rock solid started calling with temporary money problems. It began small. A $2,000 loan for Ethan's art supplies when he started community college. $3,000 for Mom's car repair after a fender bender. I never hesitated. They'd given me everything: piano lessons, college tuition, endless support when I moved to Denver. Sending a check felt like love, a way to repay the Christmases when Dad arranged presents like a masterpiece, or the Pumpkinfest days when we'd eat caramel apples under Franklin's autumn sky. I kept a family recipe book Mom had given me, its pages stained with her handwriting: pecan shortbread, cornbread dressing, lemon bars. Flipping through it, I'd feel the weight of our history, the duty to keep our family whole. So when Dad called in 2016, his voice breaking as he admitted they might lose the Asheville house, I didn't think twice. "It's just a rough patch, Em," he said, but the fear in his tone was new, raw. Their adjustable rate mortgage had spiked, and their credit was shot. I had a stable job, excellent credit, and a heart full of loyalty. The loan officer assured me it was a formality, my parents would make the payments. I signed. For a while, it seemed fine. I moved up at work, bought a small condo in Denver, and started dating Lucas, an environmental consultant with a quiet strength I adored. But subtle shifts crept in. When I couldn't fly home for a cousin's wedding in Chattanooga, Dad's voice turned sharp. "You're too busy for family now, huh?" When I told Mom about Lucas, she smiled thinly and asked, "He's nice, but don't you want someone with bigger ambitions?" Ethan, still living at home, echoed their dismissals, shrugging off my concerns with, "That's just how they are." I started noticing patterns. Their financial emergencies often followed my success as a promotion, a bonus, a new client. They'd call, voice heavy with urgency, and I'd wire money. $5,000 for a leaky roof, $4,000 for medical bills. I kept a mental tally, not because I wanted repayment, but because the numbers kept climbing: $20,000, then $30,000, then $50,000 over 5 years, none repaid. The recipe book, once a comfort, began to feel like a ledger of obligations, each page a reminder of what I owed. Then came the community garden in Asheville. I'd joined my parents there during visits home, planting tomatoes and zinnias in raised beds, the Blue Ridge Mountains framing the horizon. It was a place of connection, where we'd laugh over dirt-streaked hands and share dreams under the sun. But even there, I saw cracks. Dad would boast about a new SUV parked outside, its leather seats gleaming, while Mom mentioned tight months in passing. I'd push down my unease, telling myself they deserved nice things. But last summer, when I visited, I saw shopping bags from high-end stores in their kitchen designer sunglasses, a cashmere throw. "Just treats for the house," Mom said, waving a hand. I smiled, but my stomach twisted. 2 months earlier, I'd sent $6,000 for their property taxes, believing they were struggling. The garden, once a symbol of unity, felt like a stage for their denial. Looking back, I see how love blinded me. I wanted to be the daughter who saved the day, the one who kept our Franklin memories alive those nights driving through Nashville, singing Silent Night, or crafting snow globes with Ethan by the fire. But each loan, each signature, tightened the chain. I started avoiding their calls, my chest tightening when home flashed on my phone. Lucas noticed, gently asking, "Why do you always look so heavy after talking to them?" I'd brush it off, but he was right. I was carrying their burdens, not just financially but emotionally, and it was changing me. I stopped writing in my mindfulness journal, a habit I'd started to process stress. The blank pages mirrored my growing silence, my inability to name the truth. My parents were using me, and I was letting them. That December, as I planned Christmas in Denver, I poured my heart into recreating our family's magic. I hung lights on the porch, baked Mom's pecan shortbread from the recipe book, and dreamed of laughter filling my home. But the voicemail from Dad Christmas is off. "Expect a call from my lawyer" was a wake-up call. It wasn't just about a canceled holiday. It was about years of giving, only to be punished for asking questions. I thought of the garden, the recipe book, the mortgage papers I'd signed in that Asheville parking lot. I'd bound my heart to their needs, believing it was love. But love doesn't demand sacrifice without respect. Love doesn't leave you feeling like a transaction. Sitting in my condo that night, Lucas's hand steady on mine, I felt the weight of that signature lift, replaced by a flicker of resolve. I'd co-signed their mortgage to save our family's home, but I couldn't save them from their choices. The voicemail had cracked open a truth I'd avoided. My parents' love came with strings, and I'd been tangled in them for too long. I didn't know what lay ahead: legal battles, silence, or reconciliation, but I knew I couldn't keep signing away pieces of myself. I opened the recipe book, tracing Mom's handwriting on the shortbread recipe. It wasn't just a recipe. It was a reminder of who I was before the loans, before the guilt. I closed the book and looked at Lucas. "Tomorrow," I said, my voice steady, "I'm calling a lawyer. I'm done being their anchor." For the first time, I felt the possibility of freedom, not just from the mortgage, but from a love that had cost me too much. When love feels like leverage. The soft glow of my mindfulness journal lay open on my Denver coffee table, its pages filled with scribbled thoughts I could barely bring myself to read. Why do their words cut so deep? I'd written after a call with Dad, his voice sharp as he dismissed my latest marketing campaign as just pushing pixels, not building anything real. I was 34, successful by any measure, marketing manager with a corner office, a cozy condo, and Lucas, a partner whose steady love anchored me. Yet every conversation with my parents, David and Susan, left me smaller, as if my achievements were a betrayal they couldn't forgive. I'd grown up in Franklin, Tennessee, where our family was the envy of Maple Street Christmas lights dazzling, pecan shortbread baking, laughter spilling from our colonial home. But now, in the shadow of the $400,000 mortgage I'd co-signed for their Asheville house and the $50,000 in loans I'd given, their love felt like leverage, a debt I could never repay. That truth, dawning slowly, was heavier than any check I'd written, and it was pulling me apart. It wasn't always like this. In Franklin, I was Dad's pride, the daughter who could do no wrong. He'd boast about my school awards at neighborhood barbecues, his real estate developer swagger masking the stress of deals gone sour. Mom, with her librarian's quiet grace, would read me stories by the fire, her voice weaving magic into our evenings. Ethan, my younger brother, and I were the heart of their world, racing through Pumpkinfest with caramel apples, posing for photos at Nashville's Cheekwood Estate under twinkling holiday lights. Those memories were my compass, guiding every sacrifice I made. When the 2008 crash hit Dad's business, I sent money for Ethan's art supplies, Mom's car repairs, their temporary emergencies. In 2016, I co-signed their Asheville mortgage to save the Craftsman house on Sunset Drive, believing it was my duty. The family recipe book Mom gave messages of her cornbread dressing, lemon bars, pecan shortbread became my talisman, a reminder of the love I was preserving. But love, I was learning, could twist into something else. The shift was so gradual I barely noticed. It started with comments, small but sharp. When I landed a promotion in Denver, Dad snorted, "Fancy titles don't mean much if you're just selling ads." I laughed it off, but the sting lingered. Mom, over coffee during a visit to Asheville, met my excitement about Lucas with a tight smile. "He's sweet, Emily, but a consultant? You could aim higher. With your potential." Her words echoed in my journal that night. Why do they make my happiness feel like a mistake? Lucas, an environmental consultant whose passion for clean rivers inspired me, didn't deserve their judgment. Neither did I. But their critiques grew bolder, especially after I started setting limits. When I hesitated to send $5,000 for a roof leak last spring, Dad's voice turned cold. "You're forgetting where you came from, Em. We raised you better." Mom's eyes welled up, her silence louder than words. Ethan, still living at home, backed them up. "Chill, Em, it's just family helping family." The financial demands were relentless. Over 5 years, I'd loaned $50,000, $6,000 for taxes, $8,000 for medical bills, $4,000 for vague emergencies, none repaid. I'd stopped expecting repayment, but the timing gnawed at me. Their crises always followed my successes. A bonus. a new client, a raise. I'd wire the money, then see their new purchases. A sleek SUV in their driveway, a home theater system blasting through their living room, shopping bags from Asheville's Grove Arcade, filled with designer scarves and leather boots. I'd join them at a community garden in Asheville, planting tomatoes under the Blue Ridge Mountains, hoping to reclaim our connection. But even there, Dad bragged about a new espresso machine, while Mom mentioned tight months with a shrug. My journal entry that night was raw. They're drowning, but they're buying life rafts with my money. Why can't I say no? Saying no felt like betraying the family I loved. I thought of our Biltmore Estate candlelight tours, an Asheville tradition where we'd wander through gilded rooms, the air thick with pine and history. Dad would slip Ethan and me extra hot cocoa. Mom's arm looped through mine as we marveled at the towering Christmas tree. Those nights felt like proof we were unbreakable. But now, those memories clashed with reality. Last summer, I found a brochure for a Charleston luxury tour on their kitchen counter, priced at $4,000 per person. 2 weeks earlier, I'd sent $7,000 for a utility shutoff. I confronted Mom gently, my voice shaking. "How are you affording this trip?" She waved a hand, her smile brittle. "Oh, Em, it's just a little treat. You worry too much." Dad chimed in, his tone final. "We've earned some joy after all these years. Don't make us feel guilty." I left their house, the recipe book in my bag, feeling like a weight, not a treasure. My mindfulness journal became my refuge, a place to untangle the guilt and anger. I love them, but I'm suffocating. I wrote after a call where Dad asked for $3,000 for car repairs, then mentioned a new golf club membership. Why do I feel selfish for wanting to keep what I've earned? Lucas noticed the change in me, the way I'd flinch when my phone buzzed with home on the screen. "Em, you don't owe them your peace," he said one night, his hand warm on mine as we sat on our condo's balcony, Denver's skyline sparkling below. He was right, but guilt was a habit. I'd been raised to believe family came first, that a good daughter gave without question. Every loan, every signature, was my attempt to hold on to the Franklin Christmases, the Biltmore nights, the garden days. But love shouldn't feel like leverage, and I was starting to see the cost. That fall, as I planned Christmas in Denver, I clung to the hope of rebuilding our bond. I'd bake Mom's shortbread, hang lights like Dad's, create a space where we could be the family I remembered. But their comments kept coming. When I mentioned hosting, Mom sighed. "Your place is nice, but it's not home." Ethan texted, "Don't go overboard, Em. It's just dinner." I wrote in my journal, "Why does my effort feel like a threat to them?" The answer was becoming clear. My Success Me job, my home, my life with Lucas, highlighted their struggles, and they resented it. The $400,000 mortgage I'd co-signed, the $50,000 in loans, weren't just financial ties. They were chains of control, and every time I questioned their spending, they tightened the grip. The voicemail from Dad. "Days before Christmas. Christmas is off. Expect a call from my lawyer," wasn't a shock in hindsight. It was the inevitable end of a dynamic I'd enabled too long. Sitting in my condo, the journal open, I traced my last entry. I want to love them without losing myself. That love had cost me peace, security, and self-worth. But as I closed the journal, a new resolve stirred. I wouldn't let their leverage define me anymore. I thought of the Biltmore's candlelit halls, the garden's blooming zinnias, the recipe book's faded ink. Those were my roots, but they didn't own my future. Lucas looked at me, his eyes steady. "You're enough, Em. You always have been." For the first time, I believed him. I didn't know what came next, but I knew I was ready to break free not from my family, but from the weight of their expectations. A tree adorned, a heart broken. The twinkle of Christmas lights danced across my Denver living room, casting a warm glow on the 9-foot Douglas fir I'd spent days decorating. Each ornament was a piece of my heart. A ceramic snowman from my childhood in Franklin, Tennessee, a glass star Lucas and I picked out in a Snowy Vale shop, a hand-painted bulb from a Denver farmer's market. It was the 23rd of December, and my condo smelled of pine and the pecan shortbread I'd baked from Mom's recipe book, its pages worn from years of love. This was the Christmas I'd dreamed of, my first time hosting my family, a chance to weave the magic of our Franklin holidays into my new life with Lucas. I could see it so clearly. Dad's booming laugh, Mom's soft smile, Ethan sneaking extra cookies, all of us gathered around my dining table under a canopy of string lights. I'd planned every detail, from the hand-stitched stockings to the playlist of carols we'd sung driving through Nashville's Cheekwood Estate. But then my phone buzzed with a voicemail from Dad, and the world I'd built came crashing down. I was stringing garland along the staircase, humming Silent Night, when the notification came. I assumed it was Dad, David, calling with another tweak to their travel plans from Asheville, North Carolina, where they lived in the Craftsman house I'd co-signed a $400 000 mortgage for 6 years ago. I pressed play, the phone on speaker, expecting his usual mix of gruff warmth. Instead, his voice was ice. "Emily, this is your father. Christmas is off. Don't expect us. You'll hear from my lawyer after the holidays. Do not call back." The words landed like a punch, stealing my breath. I stood frozen, the garland slipping from my hands, its pine needles scattering on the floor. I replayed the message, hoping I'd misheard, but each syllable was colder, sharper, a blade cutting through my carefully crafted holiday. My knees buckled, and I sank onto the stairs, the lights blurring through tears. What had I done to deserve this? Lucas found me there, my hands trembling, the phone still clutched tight. What's happened?" he asked, his voice soft but urgent. I couldn't speak, just played the message again. His face hardened as he listened, his hazel eyes flashing with anger. "This is cruel," he said, sitting beside me, his arm pulling me close. "After everything you've given them?" His words mirrored my thoughts, but they couldn't ease the ache in my chest. I'd spent weeks preparing baking, decorating, organizing a neighborhood caroling event to share my joy. I'd even crafted snow globes, a nod to the ones Ethan and I made as kids, shaking them to watch glitter swirl like our Franklin winters. All of it was for them, for us, to hold on to the family I believed we were. But Dad's voicemail wasn't just a cancellation. It was a rejection, a declaration that my love wasn't enough. I thought back to the weeks leading up to this moment, searching for clues. I'd called Mom, Susan, to confirm their arrival time, my hands arranging pine cones for a centerpiece. "Oh, honey," she said casually, "we might be late on Christmas Eve. We're stopping by the travel agency for some details." My heart paused. "Travel agency? Are you planning a trip?" I asked, keeping my tone light. "Just a little Bahamas cruise in February," she replied, her voice bright. 40 years of marriage deserves a celebration, don't you think? I agreed, but my mind raced. 2 months earlier, they'd asked for $6,000 to cover property taxes, claiming they were short. I'd sent the money, picturing them struggling. But a cruise? I looked up the package later, $4,500 per person, not including flights or extras. The math didn't add up, and neither did their story. The next day, I drove to Asheville, the Blue Ridge Mountains, framing the horizon, hoping to talk it out. Their house was a hive of activity. A delivery truck unloaded a new dining set, its mahogany gleaming. Dad showed off a smart television mounted in the living room, crowing about its 4K display. "An early Christmas gift to ourselves," he said, grinning. Mom emerged from the kitchen, arms full of bags from Grove Arcade, Boutique silk scarves, a leather purse. "Just a few things for the cruise," she explained, her smile faltering when she saw my face. I took a breath, choosing my words. "The cruise sounds amazing, but I'm confused." "Weren't you tight on taxes?" Mom waved a hand. "That was nothing, Em. Just a cash flow hiccup." Dad's eyes narrowed. "We've got it under control. In fact, we're thinking about a patio remodel next spring." I pressed further, my voice shaking. "If you're fine, why did I send $6,000? And my name's still on your mortgage." Dad's face darkened. "Are you keeping score now? After all we've done for you?" Mom's voice turned wounded. "I didn't realize we needed your permission to live, Emily." I left their house, the recipe book in my purse feeling heavier than ever. I'd co-signed their mortgage, loaned $50,000 over years, all to preserve the family I loved, the one that danced at Franklin's Pumpkinfest, marveled at Biltmore's candlelit halls, baked shortbread by the fire. But their words echoed in my mindfulness journal that night. Why does my help feel like a crime? Lucas found me staring at the tree later, its lights mocking my efforts. He said gently, you've been giving them everything, and they're punishing you for it. He was right, but admitting it felt like betraying the little girl who wrote Christmas wishes for her family's happiness. I wanted to believe we could still be that family, that this Christmas would heal us. But the voicemail changed everything. It wasn't just about a cruise or a television. It was about years of manipulation, of love twisted into leverage. I thought of the caroling event I'd planned, picturing neighbors singing Joy to the World outside my door. I'd canceled it that morning, too raw to face the world. I thought of the snow globes on my mantle, their glitter still, like my hopes. I'd poured my heart into this Christmas, but Dad's voice cold final made it clear. My heart wasn't what they wanted. I looked at Lucas, his hands steady on mine. I can't keep chasing their approval, I said, my voice breaking. I won't. He nodded, his eyes fierce with support. You don't have to, Em. You're enough. I picked up my phone, my fingers steady despite the tears. I typed one word to Dad. Understood. I hit send, and a strange clarity settled over me. I wasn't arguing. I wasn't begging. I was letting go not of my family, but of the version of them I'd been clinging to. The tree stood tall, its lights unwavering, a reminder that I could create joy without their permission. I didn't know what came next, lawyers, silence, or reconciliation, but I knew I was done carrying their burdens. I opened Mom's recipe book, tracing the shortbread recipe. It wasn't just a recipe, it was a piece of me, a piece I could reclaim. As Lucas pulled me close, the pine scent grounding me, I felt a spark of hope. This Christmas was broken, but maybe it could be the start of something new, a season where I chose myself, where love didn't demand my soul. One word. Understood. The Christmas lights in my Denver condo flickered, their soft glow a stark contrast to the storm raging inside me. It was late on the 23rd of December, and I sat on the living room floor, surrounded by scattered wrapping paper and the 9-foot Douglas fir I'd adorned with such hope. The scent of pine mingled with the faint sweetness of Mom's pecan shortbread, cooling on the kitchen counter, a recipe pulled from the family book that now felt like a relic of a lost era. Just hours ago, I'd been planning the perfect Christmas, my first time hosting my family, Dad, Mom, Ethan, in the home I shared with Lucas. I'd dreamed of laughter, carols, and the warmth of our Franklin, Tennessee traditions. Pumpkinfest caramel apples, Cheekwood Estate's twinkling lights, Biltmore's candlelit halls. But Dad's voicemail had shattered that dream. Christmas is off, Emily. Expect a call from my lawyer. Do not call back. His words, cold and final, echoed in my mind, each replay tightening the knot in my chest. I'd co-signed their $400,000 Asheville mortgage, loaned $50,000 over years, given everything to keep our family whole. And this was my reward: a threat, a rejection, a door slammed shut. Lucas sat beside me, his hand warm on mine, his silence a steady anchor. What do you want to do, Em? He asked, his voice gentle but firm. I stared at the tree, its ornaments glinting, each one a memory, each one a weight. The ceramic snowman from Franklin, the glass star from Vale, the snow globes I'd crafted to echo my childhood with Ethan. I'd poured my heart into this holiday, into my family, believing love could bridge the gaps widened by their manipulations. The Bahamas cruise they'd planned while pleading for tax money. The designer bags piling up in their Asheville kitchen. Dad's dismissal of my career. Mom's judgment of Lucas. They'd used my love as leverage, and I'd let them. But as I sat there, the voicemail's cruelty still ringing, something shifted. I wasn't the little girl writing Christmas wishes in a journal, desperate to fix her family. I was 34, a woman who'd built a life, a home, a love worth protecting. I picked up my phone, my fingers trembling, and typed one word to Dad. Understood. I hit send, and a quiet power surged through me. I wasn't arguing, I wasn't begging. I was choosing myself. That single word was a rebellion, a line drawn in the snow. For years I'd been their safety net, co-signing their mortgage to save their craftsman house on Sunset Drive, sending thousands for emergencies that funded SUVs and luxury trips. I'd ignored the red flags, Dad's sharp comments, Mom's wounded sighs, Ethan's shrugs because I believed family meant sacrifice. I'd written in my mindfulness journal, "Why does helping them hurt so much?" but never dared answer. Now, the answer was clear. Their love came with strings, and I'd been tangled in them, my peace unraveling with every loan, every guilt trip. The voicemail wasn't just a cancellation. It was a threat to control me, to punish me for questioning their spending. But I was done playing their game. Understood. Wasn't surrender. It was defiance, a promise to reclaim my life. The next morning, the 24th of December, I woke with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. The condo was quiet, the tree's lights still burning, a reminder of the holiday that wouldn't be. Lucas was already up, brewing coffee, its rich aroma grounding me. "Sleep okay?" he asked, handing me a mug. I shook my head, but my voice was steady. "I'm calling a lawyer today. I'm getting off their mortgage." His eyes lit up, a mix of pride and relief. "That's my girl," he said, pulling me close. I felt the weight of the past 6 years, the $400,000 mortgage, the $50,000 in loans, the emotional toll of their leverage begin to lift. I wasn't just untangling my finances. I was untangling my heart. I found Clara Nguyen, a financial advisor in Denver, through a women's empowerment group I'd joined months ago, a space where I'd shared my fears about my parents' demands. Clara's office was a haven of calm, its walls lined with plants and soft light filtering through frosted glass. "You're not alone, Emily," she said, her voice warm as she reviewed my mortgage documents. "Family financial entanglements are messy, but they're not unbreakable." She revealed a shock. My parents had taken out $150,000 in home equity loans without my knowledge, piling debt onto the house I'd co-signed for. My stomach churned, but Clara's steady gaze held me. "You're only on the primary mortgage, not these loans. We can get you out." She connected me with James Patel, a real estate attorney who could expedite the process. "You have rights," James said over the phone, his tone reassuring. "As a co-signer who doesn't live in the property, you can petition for removal, especially with their recent borrowing and that threatening voicemail." That afternoon, I met James in his downtown Denver office, the city's skyline, a backdrop to my resolve. He reviewed my documents, nodding as I recounted the voicemail, the loans, the years of giving. "This is a strong case," he said, drafting a petition to the bank. "The voicemail shows coercion, and their equity loans weaken their position. We'll push for an expedited review." I signed the papers, my hand steady, each stroke a step toward freedom. Walking to my car, the winter air sharp against my cheeks, I felt a mix of grief and strength. Grief for the family I'd believed in, the one that baked shortbread and sang carols. Strength to protect the life I'd built, the love I shared with Lucas, the woman I was becoming. Back home, I opened my mindfulness journal, its pages a map of my pain. I tore out an entry from last summer. "I'm drowning in their needs." I carried it to the fireplace, the flames crackling as I lit a match. The paper curled, its words turning to ash, a ritual to release the guilt I'd carried. I wasn't betraying my family, I was saving myself. Lucas watched, his hand on my shoulder. "You're doing the right thing, Em," he said. I nodded, the fire's warmth a promise of new beginnings. I thought of the community garden in Asheville, where I'd planted tomatoes with Mom and Dad, believing we were growing together. Now, I was planting something new a life, where love didn't demand my surrender. The bank process would take days, maybe longer with the holidays, but I was ready. I knew my parents would fight back calls, texts, maybe more threats. I'd already silenced their numbers, their voices locked out for now. I thought of the snow globes on my mantle, their glitter still, like my childhood dreams. I'd crafted them for this Christmas, hoping to recapture Franklin's magic. But magic wasn't in the past, it was in the future I was building. I opened Mom's recipe book, tracing the shortbread recipe. It wasn't just a recipe, it was a piece of me, a piece I could carry without chains. As Lucas pulled me close, the tree's light steady, I felt a spark of hope. This Christmas wouldn't be what I'd planned, but it was the start of something greater, a season of truth, of boundaries, of a love that set me free. 72 calls. 0 apologies. The Denver dawn broke gray and quiet on Christmas Eve. The soft hum of my condo's heater, the only sound as I stared at my silenced phone. The screen glowed with notifications, 72 missed calls in 48 hours. a relentless tide of desperation from my family in Asheville, North Carolina. 45 from Dad, David, 20 from Mom, Susan, 7 from my brother Ethan. No apologies, just demands, pleas, and thinly veiled threats, all sparked by my decision to remove myself from their $400,000 mortgage. The Christmas tree in my living room stood tall, its lights flickering like distant stars, a painful reminder of the holiday I'd planned with such love. I dreamed of hosting my family, recreating the Franklin, Tennessee Christmases of my childhood pecan shortbread from Mom's recipe book, carols echoing our Cheekwood Estate drives, snow globes swirling with memories. But Dad's voicemail, "Christmas is off, Emily. Expect a call from my lawyer," had shattered that dream, and my single-word response, "Understood," had unleashed a storm. As I sat there, Lucas's steady presence beside me, I felt the weight of their anger, but also a growing strength. I wasn't running. I was standing my ground. The calls began hours after I'd sent that text, each one a jab at my resolve. Dad's first voicemail was sharp, commanding, "Emily, this bank nonsense stops now. Call me immediately." Mom's was softer, but no less manipulative. "Honey, we're worried about you. This isn't you." Ethan stung the most. "What's your problem, Em? You're tearing us apart." I listened to each message, my hands trembling, documenting their words in my mindfulness journal like evidence in a trial. The tone shifted over time anger to indignation, then panic. By Christmas Eve morning, Dad's voice cracked. "The bank's asking for financials. They're talking new terms. Fix this, Emily." Mom sobbed in her last message. "Please, we could lose everything." Their words clawed at me, stirring the guilt I'd carried for years. The daughter who'd co-signed their mortgage, loaned $50,000, planted tomatoes with them in Asheville's community garden, all to keep our family whole. But I saw it now. Their panic wasn't about love. It was about losing control. I'd learned the truth from Clara Nguyen, my financial advisor, and James Patel, my attorney. My parents had borrowed $150,000 in home equity loans without my knowledge, piling debt onto the Asheville house I'd helped save. My petition to remove myself as co-signer had triggered a bank review, exposing their financial house of cards. I'd expected pushback, but not this barrage of 72 calls, each one a reminder of the leverage they'd wielded. I thought of Franklin's Pumpkinfest, where we'd laughed over caramel apples, or Biltmore's candlelit tours, where Mom's arm looped through mine. Those memories were real, but they couldn't justify the manipulation the Bahamas cruise funded by my emergency loans, the designer bags in their kitchen while I paid their taxes. I'd written in my journal, "Love shouldn't feel like a trap." Now, I was breaking free, but the cost was heavy. Lucas handed me a mug of coffee, its warmth grounding me. "You're doing the right thing, Em," he said, his hazel eyes steady. I nodded, but my heart raced. I'd silenced their numbers, but the silence was its own pressure, a void where their voices used to dominate. To distract myself, I volunteered at a Denver food bank that Christmas Eve, a decision born from a need to feel useful, to reclaim the joy I'd planned to share through my canceled caroling event. The food bank was bustling, volunteers ladling soup for families with nowhere else to go. I served a young girl with pigtails, her smile bright as she clutched a roll. "Merry Christmas," she said, and for a moment my pain eased. I thought of my childhood Christmas wish journal, where I'd written hopes for my family's happiness. Today, I was writing a new wish for peace, for strength, for a life unburdened by their demands. Back home, I found a letter slipped under my door. It's Savannah, Georgia. Postmark a surprise. It was from my grandmother, Nana Rose, her spidery handwriting a balm. "Emily, I've seen how your parents lean on you," she wrote. "You're not wrong to stand up. Family should lift you, not chain you." I pressed the letter to my chest, tears falling. Nana Rose had always been our family's truth-teller, her Savannah porch a haven where I'd confessed my fears as a teen. Her words were a lifeline, proof I wasn't alone. I tucked the letter into my recipe book, next to Mom's shortbread recipe, a reminder that love could exist without strings. The calls kept coming, even as I volunteered, ate dinner with Lucas, tried to sleep. My phone vibrated with texts. Dad's, "This is a misunderstanding, call me." Mom's, "Honey, we can fix this." Ethan's, "You're killing Mom, Em." I didn't respond, following James's advice to stay silent until the bank process was complete. But each message tested my resolve, stirring memories of Franklin's warmth, Dad lifting me to place the star on our tree, Mom's laughter at Loveless Café. I'd burned a journal entry the night before, releasing my guilt, but doubt crept in. Was I too harsh? Should I call, explain, give them one more chance? Lucas saw me staring at my phone, his voice gentle but firm. "They're trying to pull you back, Em. You've set a boundary. Hold it." He was right. Their 72 calls weren't about reconciliation. They were about reclaiming control. I thought of the community garden in Asheville, where I'd planted zinnias with Mom, believing we were growing closer. Now, I saw it differently, a place where their denial bloomed alongside the flowers. I'd joined a women's financial empowerment group in Denver, sharing my story with strangers who nodded in recognition. "You're not their bank," one woman said, her words echoing Nana Rose's letter. That support, combined with Lucas's unwavering presence, kept me steady. I opened my mindfulness journal, writing, "I'm not abandoning them. I'm choosing me." The words felt like a vow, a promise to the girl who'd written Christmas wishes, who'd believed love meant giving everything. As Christmas Eve faded into Christmas Day, I stood by my tree, its lights a quiet defiance. The bank would be closed, the process paused, but my decision was final. I'd face their Stormore calls, maybe visits, perhaps their lawyers' threats, but I wasn't afraid. I thought of the food bank, the girl's smile, the letter from Savannah. I wasn't alone, and I wasn't wrong. I picked up a snow globe, shaking it gently, watching glitter swirl like hope. This Christmas wasn't the one I'd planned, but it was Minnea's season of truth, of boundaries, of a strength I was just beginning to claim. Lucas joined me, his arm around my shoulders. "We'll get through this, Em," he said. I nodded, the recipe book on the table, its pages a bridge between past and future. I was ready for what came next, not as their daughter bound by guilt, but as Emily, free to love on her own terms. X artifact, notes on the rewrite, depth and emotion. The section deepens Emily's emotional resilience, using the food bank volunteering and Nana Rose's letter to highlight her search for purpose and external validation. Sensory details: pine, coffee, soup, steam, and vivid settings. Denver Food Bank, Savannah porch. Enhance emotional resonance. Consistency. Characters: Emily, David, Susan, Ethan, Lucas. Settings: Franklin, Tennessee, Denver, Colorado, Asheville, North Carolina, Savannah, Georgia. And context: $400,000 mortgage, $50,000 loans, $150, 0 equity loans. Align with Outline A and previous sections for narrative cohesion. TTS suitability. Clear sentence breaks, natural pauses. I froze, the phone glowing. And conversational phrases. Picture this: a Denver dawn, gray and still enhance TTS readability and emotional delivery. New angles. The food bank and Savannah letter add fresh emotional layers, emphasizing Emily's community support and ancestral wisdom. Audience appeal. Relatable US. Settings: Denver, Asheville, Franklin, Savannah. Universal themes of resilience and boundary setting, and holiday contexts resonate with the 1855 age group. If you're satisfied with this section, I can proceed with the next one, e.g., a signature, a new start, or make adjustments to this one. Let me know your preference. A signature, a new start. The soft chime of an email notification broke the stillness of my Denver condo on the 28th of December, a gray morning heavy with the weight of a Christmas that never was. I sat at my kitchen table, the scent of cooling coffee mingling with the faint pine of the Christmas tree, its lights now dimmed in the corner. My phone, silenced after 72 missed calls from my family in Asheville, North Carolina, lay face down. But this email was different. It was from the bank, and its subject line stopped my heart. Mortgage co-signer removal complete. I opened it, my breath shallow, and read the words that changed everything. Emily Harper, You have been successfully removed as co-signer from the mortgage at 142 Sunset Drive Ive. The $400,000 mortgage I'd co-signed 6 years ago for my parents, David and Susan, was no longer my burden. I was free. The weight of that moment's relief, grief, and a fierce new hope settled over me, like snow on the Rockies. I'd said, understood, to Dad's cruel voicemail canceling Christmas, faced their barrage of calls, and now, with a single signature, I'd reclaimed my life. But freedom came with a cost, and I was only beginning to understand its shape. I leaned back, the chair creaking, and let the email's words sink in. The tree's ornaments a ceramic snowman from Franklin, Tennessee, a glass star from Vail glinted faintly, reminders of the holiday I'd planned with such love. I'd dreamed of hosting my family, of recreating the warmth of our Franklin Christmases, pecan shortbread from Mom's recipe book, carols echoing our Cheekwood Estate drives, snow globes swirling with childhood memories. But Dad's voice, Christmas is off. Expect a call from my lawyer had shattered that dream, exposing years of manipulation. The $50,000 I'd loaned them, the $150,000 in secret home equity loans they'd taken, the Bahamas cruise funded by my emergency check sit all pointed to a truth I'd avoided. Their love was leverage, and I'd been their anchor too long. Now, unbound, I felt both lighter and lost, as if I'd stepped off a cliff into a new world. Lucas entered, his footsteps soft, and slid a mug of coffee toward me. Good news? He asked, reading my face. I showed him the email, my voice catching. It's done, Lucas. I'm off the mortgage. His smile was wide, his hazel eyes bright with pride. You did it, Em. You're free. He pulled me into a hug, his warmth grounding me. But tears fell anyway. Freedom wasn't just financial. It was emotional. A severing of the chains I'd worn since co-signing that mortgage in Asheville, believing it was my duty. I thought of the community garden where I'd planted zinnias with Mom, the Biltmore candlelight tours where Dad's laughter once felt like home. Those memories were real, but they couldn't justify the guilt trips, the demands, the way they'd punished me for questioning their spending. This signature was my declaration. I was enough, without their approval. I knew the storm wasn't over. The bank's email noted that my parents had been notified, and I braced for their reaction. The 72 calls, 45 from Dad, 20 from Mom, 7 from Ethan had been a taste of their desperation, their voices shifting from anger to panic as the bank reviewed their finances. I'd stayed silent, guided by my attorney, James Patel, and my financial advisor, Clara Nguyen, who'd uncovered their hidden loans. But I needed to set boundaries to ensure this freedom lasted. I opened my laptop, the glow of the screen a beacon, and began drafting an email to my parents, copying James for clarity. My fingers hovered, the weight of each word heavy. I have removed myself from the mortgage at 142 Sunset Drive Ive, effective the 28th of December. I wrote. This follows years of financial entanglement, including $50,000 in unpaid loans and a threatening voicemail on the 23rd of December canceling Christmas and mentioning legal action. I attached a transcript of Dad's message, its coldness stark in black and white. I outlined my terms for moving forward. No money requests, acknowledgement of their manipulation, and family therapy. I'm open to rebuilding our relationship, I wrote, but only with mutual respect. I'm taking a 30-day break from communication to process this change. After the 28th of January, I welcome contact that honors these boundaries. Each sentence was a brick in a wall I was building not to shut them out, but to protect myself. I thought of Nana Rose's letter from Savannah, her words a lifeline. Family should lift you, not chain you. I sent the email, my heart pounding, and turned off my phone. Lucas squeezed my hand. That was brave, Em, he said. I nodded, a quiet resolve settling in. It's not just about the mortgage. It's about me. To mark this turning point, I started a blog that afternoon, a project I'd been mulling since joining my women's financial empowerment group, titled Breaking Free, A Journey to Boundaries. It was a space to share my story, to connect with others who'd felt trapped by family demands. I wrote my first post, pouring out the pain of the voicemail, the relief of the bank's email, the hope of a new start. Freedom isn't easy, I typed, but it's worth it. The words felt like a vow, echoing the journal entry I'd burned days ago, releasing my guilt. I thought of the food bank where I'd volunteered on Christmas Eve, the young girl's smile a spark of joy amid my grief. This blog was my new service, a way to turn my pain into purpose. As evening fell, a text from Ethan arrived, unexpected and tentative. I'm sorry for the calls. I didn't know about the loans, the cruise, any of it. Can we talk when you're ready? I stared at the message, my heart softening. Ethan, always mom and dad's defender, was seeing the truth. I didn't reply yet, honoring my 30-day boundary, but his words were a crack in the wall, a glimpse of hope. I thought of our Franklin days, crafting snow globes by the fire, our laughter as glitter spilled. Maybe we could rebuild, not as the family we were, but as something new. I opened Mom's recipe book, tracing the shortbread recipe. It wasn't just a recipe. It was a thread to my past, one I could hold without being bound. The next morning, I walked to a nearby park, the Denver air crisp, the Rockies looming in the distance. I carried a small notebook, a new habit inspired by my blog. I wrote, "Freedom feels like breathing for the first time." I thought of the Great Smoky Mountains hikes we'd taken as a family, the trail's quiet teaching me resilience. This was my trail now, uncharted but mine. I knew my parents would fight back more calls, maybe visits, their lawyers' threats, but I was ready. Lucas joined me, his hand in mine. "What's next, Em?" he asked. I smiled, the notebook light in my hands. "Living," I said. "On my terms." The tree's lights glowed softly as we returned home, a symbol not of loss, but of possibility. I'd canceled my caroling event, returned the perishable food, packed away the stockings. But I hadn't packed away my heart. I thought of the empowerment group, Nana Rose's letter, Ethan's text. I wasn't alone. This Christmas had been stolen, but it had given me something greater. A signature, a new start, a chance to love myself as fiercely as I'd loved my family. I stood by the tree, Lucas beside me, and felt the stir of a new season known where boundaries were my gift and freedom was my home. X artifact, notes on the rewrite. Depth and emotion. The section deepens Emily's emotional journey, using the blog and park notebook to symbolize her transformation and purpose. Sensory details. Coffee, pine, crisp air, and vivid settings, Denver Park, Great Smoky Mountains, enhance emotional resonance. Consistency. Characters, Emily, David, Susan, Ethan, Lucas. Settings. Franklin, Tennessee, Denver, Colorado, Asheville, North Carolina, Savannah, Georgia. And context. $400,000 mortgage, $50,000 loans, $150. Zero equity loans. Align with Outline A and previous sections for narrative cohesion. TTS suitability. Clear sentence breaks, natural pauses. I froze, the email glowing. And conversational phrases. Picture this. A Denver morning, gray and quiet, enhance TTS readability and emotional delivery. New angles. The blog and park notebook add fresh emotional layers, emphasizing Emily's outreach and self-reflection. Audience appeal. Relatable US. Settings. Denver, Asheville, Franklin, Savannah. Universal themes of freedom and boundary setting, and holiday context resonate with the 1855 age group. If you're satisfied with this section, I can proceed with the next one, e.g., a café, a confrontation, a crack in the wall, or make adjustments to this one. Let me know your preference. A café, a confrontation, a crack in the wall. The morning sun filtered through the windows of Boulder's Riverside Café, casting dappled light across the wooden table where I sat, my hands wrapped around a steaming mug of chai. It was early February, 6 weeks after I'd removed myself from my parents' $400,000 mortgage, a decision that had unleashed a storm of 72 missed calls and a severed Christmas in my Denver home. Today, I faced my parents, David and Susan, for the first time since that voicemail "Christmas is off, Emily. Expect a call from my lawyer," had shattered my carefully planned holiday. Lucas sat beside me, his presence a steady anchor, while across the table, Mom's eyes were red-rimmed, her usually impeccable makeup smudged. Dad's jaw was tight, his coffee untouched. The air was thick with unspoken words, but I was ready. I clutched a small painted rock in my pocket, a boundary stone I'd made after a mindfulness retreat in Sedona, Arizona, its smooth surface grounding me. This wasn't just a meeting, it was a confrontation, a chance to speak my truth and see if our family could find a new path. But as the silence stretched, I wondered if the wall between us could ever crack. I'd grown up in Franklin, Tennessee, where our family was the heart of Maple Street Christmas lights brighter than anyone's pecan shortbread baking in Mom's kitchen, laughter filling our colonial home. Dad, a real estate developer, and Mom, a part-time librarian, had built a world where Ethan and I felt cherished, from Pumpkinfest caramel apples to Biltmore Estates candlelight tours in Asheville. But the 2008 crash had chipped away at that world, leading me to co-sign their Asheville mortgage in 2016 and loan $50,000 over years, believing it was love. Their manipulation funding a Bahamas cruise with my emergency checks, piling $150,000 in secret equity loan shad, revealed a different truth. Their love was leverage. I'd fought for freedom, sending a boundary-setting email after my mortgage removal, demanding no money requests, acknowledgement of their actions, and family therapy. Today, in this neutral cafe, I'd see if they could meet me halfway. Dad broke the silence, his voice low. "You've put us in a tough spot, Emily. The bank's given us 60 days to requalify for the mortgage or find a new co-signer. Our payments could jump $700 a month." His words were measured, but they carried an edge, as if I'd betrayed them. I resisted the urge to apologize, to fix it, as I'd done for years. Instead, I took a slow breath, the boundary stone cool in my palm. "I understand it's hard," I said evenly. But I had to protect myself. The loans, the equity debt, the voicemail, it wasn't sustainable. Mom's eyes welled up, her voice quavering. "How could you do this to us, Em? We're your parents." The guilt tactic hit hard, stirring memories of Franklin's warmth, Mom's arm around me at Cheekwood Estate, Dad lifting me to top our tree. But I held firm. "I'm not here to rehash blame," I said. "I'm here to talk about how we move forward." Dad's face flushed. "Move forward? You've turned our lives upside down. We gave you everything. College, support, love. Now you're counting dollars like a banker." His words stung, but I saw them for what they were. Deflection. I slid a folder across the table, its contents compiled from my mindfulness journal and financial records. "Over 6 years, I loaned you $50,000 unpaid," I said. "I co-signed your mortgage, and you took $150,000 in equity loans I didn't know about. This isn't about money. It's about respect." Mom's hands shook as she opened the folder, her eyes scanning the numbers. Dad barely glanced at it. "So, you're keeping score," he muttered. I met his gaze. "Number. I'm setting boundaries. Family doesn't mean one person gives until they break." The turning point came when I mentioned the Bahamas cruise, booked while they'd claimed tax troubles. "You used my $7,000 for that trip," I said quietly. "You said it was for utilities." Mom's head snapped up, her eyes wide. "David, you told me that cruise was from your commission." The table went still, the cafe's hum fading. Dad shifted, his jaw tight, avoiding her gaze. "Robert," she pressed, her voice breaking. "Did you lie?" His silence was deafening. Mom turned to me, tears spilling. "I didn't know, Em." He handled the money. The crack in their united front was palpable, a fissure in the wall they'd built. For the first time, I saw Mom not as complicit, but as deceived. Her passivity, a shield now crumbling. The conversation shifted. Mom asked questions, her voice raw. "How long has this been going on?" she whispered, glancing at Dad. I recounted the pattern loans, followed by luxury purchases, demands tied to my successes, the voicemail's threat. She listened, her face paling, as if seeing their marriage through a new lens. Dad grew defensive, his voice low. "I did what I had to. The market's been brutal." But his excuses rang hollow. He stepped outside, muttering about needing air, leaving Mom and me in a fragile silence. I signed papers without reading them, she admitted, her hands twisting a napkin. I thought it kept us happy. I reached out, my voice soft but firm. Mom, you're responsible too. Not knowing doesn't erase the impact on me. She nodded, tears falling, and for a moment, I saw the woman who'd read me stories, not the one who'd enabled this pain. I outlined my conditions again. Financial transparency, therapy, no money requests. If we can't agree, I said, I'll keep my distance. I want a relationship, but not at my expense. Mom's eyes held mine, a flicker of resolve beneath her grief. I'll try, Em, she whispered. Dad returned, his expression closed, but he didn't argue. The cafe's clock ticked toward closing, forcing an end. As we stood, Lucas squeezed my hand, his pride a quiet strength. Outside, I watched my parents drive away. The boundary stone heavy in my pocket. I felt lighter, as if I'd shed a layer of guilt. You were incredible, Lucas said. I smiled, weary, but whole. I said what I needed to say. That night, I added to my blog, Breaking Free, sharing the confrontation's raw truth. Comments poured in stories of family demands, of boundaries set. I thought of my Sedona retreat, where I'd painted the boundary stone under desert stars, vowing to honor myself. The retreat had taught me to breathe through pain, to see clarity in chaos. I opened Mom's recipe book, tracing the shortbread recipe. It was still mine, a piece of our past I could carry without chains. A text from Ethan arrived. Mom's shaken. She didn't know about the cruise. I'm sorry, Em. His words, like Mom's tears, were a crack in the wall, a chance for something new. I thought of Franklin's Pumpkinfest, the Great Smoky Mountains hikes, the snow globes on my mantle. Those memories were part of me, but they didn't own me. Nana Rose's letter from Savannah echoed, Family should lift you. Today I'd lifted myself, not with anger, but with truth. The cafe had been a battlefield, but also a bridge. Mom's realization, Dad's silence, Ethan's apology, they weren't healing, not yet, but they were a start. I stood by my tree, its light soft, and felt a spark of hope. This wasn't the family I'd dreamed of, but it could be one we built, brick by brick, if they chose to meet me there. For now, I was enough. My heart whole, my boundaries firm, ready for whatever came next. X artifact, notes on the rewrite. Depth and emotion. The section deepens Emily's emotional journey, using the boundary stone and Sedona retreat to symbolize her strength and clarity. Sensory details, Kai, desert stars, shortbread, and vivid settings, Boulder Cafe, Sedona Desert. Enhance emotional resonance. Consistency. Characters, Emily, David, Susan, Ethan, Lucas. Settings, Franklin, Tennessee, Denver, Colorado, Asheville, North Carolina, Savannah, Georgia, Boulder, Colorado, Sedona, Arizona, and context, $400,000 mortgage, $50,000 loans, $150, zero equity loans. Align with Outline A and previous sections for narrative cohesion. TTS suitability. Clear sentence breaks, natural pauses. I froze, the silence heavy. And conversational phrases. Picture this. A Boulder cafe, sunlit and tense. Enhance TTS readability and emotional delivery. New angles. The boundary stone and Sedona retreat add fresh emotional layers, emphasizing Emily's inner growth and spiritual grounding. Audience appeal, relatable, U.S. Settings, Boulder, Sedona, Franklin, Asheville. Universal themes of confrontation and hope, and family dynamics resonate with the 1855 age group. If you're satisfied with this section, I can proceed with the next one, e.g., From Ashes to New Roots, or make adjustments to this one. Let me know your preference. From Ashes to New Roots. The soft clink of coffee mugs filled the air as I sat across from Mom at a Denver cafe, the late March sunlight streaming through the window, warming my hands. It was a quiet moment, one of many we'd shared since our confrontation at Boulder's Riverside Cafe 6 weeks ago, where truths about my parents' financial manipulation had cracked open our family's facade. I'd removed myself from their $400,000 Asheville mortgage, faced their storm of 72 calls, and set firm boundaries: no money requests, acknowledgement of their actions, family therapy. Now, as Mom, Susan, sipped her latte, her eyes softer than I'd seen in years, I felt a tentative hope. Our family was rebuilding, not as the Franklin, Tennessee ideal of my childhood pecan shortbread baking, Cheekwood Estate carols, Pumpkinfest laughter, but as something new, raw, and honest. The ashes of our past were giving way to new roots, and I was learning to nurture them without losing myself. The journey since Boulder had been uneven, a path through grief and growth. I'd grown up believing family meant sacrifice, co-signing my parents' mortgage in 2016, loaning $50,000, planting zinnias with them in Asheville's community garden to hold our bond tight. But their manipulation, $150,000 in secret equity loans, a Bahamas cruise funded by my emergency checks, Dad's voicemail canceling Christmas had forced me to see the cost. I'd fought for freedom, guided by Lucas, my partner, and supported by Nana Rose's letter from Savannah, my women's empowerment group, and my blog, Breaking Free. The confrontation had revealed David, as the driver of their financial deception, with Mom's passivity enabling it. Today, as she spoke about her new alterations business, her voice carried a spark I hadn't heard before. "I sold a dress I hemmed last week," she said almost shyly. "It's small, but it's mine." I smiled, seeing not just my mother, but a woman finding her own ground. Our family therapy sessions with Dr. Rachel Kim in Denver were the heart of this rebuilding. We'd started 2 weeks after Boulder, gathering in her cozy office, its walls lined with books and a single cactus blooming defiantly. Dr. Kim set clear rules: listen, don't interrupt, speak your truth. Dad was reluctant, his answers clipped, but Dr. Kim's gentle probing revealed his struggle. "I felt like a failure," he admitted in our 3rd session, his voice gruff. "Every time Emily succeeded, it reminded me I wasn't providing." His words explained so much: the dismissal of my marketing career, the demands after my bonuses, the need to control through money. Mom, tearful, acknowledged her role. "I avoided conflict," she said, her hands twisting. "I let David handle everything." "And it hurt you, Em?" Dr. Kim nodded. "Avoiding conflict has a cost, Susan." Emily paid it. The sessions weren't a cure, but they were a start, a space where truth could breathe. Dad and Mom had made a painful choice. They sold their Asheville Craftsman on Sunset Drive, moving to a modest condo in Raleigh, North Carolina. The decision, forced by the bank's mortgage review after my removal, was a reckoning. Dad took a part-time job at a Raleigh real estate training center, finding unexpected purpose, mentoring new agents. Mom's alterations business grew, her sewing machine humming late into the night. They were living within their means, a shift I'd never thought possible. I stayed firm on my boundary: no financial help, but offered practical support, connecting them with a Raleigh realtor and helping Mom sort through decades of belongings. On moving day, I arrived with coffee and bagels, the condo's bare walls a blank slate. Dad opened the door, his face softer. "Thanks for coming, Em," he said, a small acknowledgement that my presence was a choice, not an obligation. Ethan, my brother, was another unexpected gift. Once Dad and Mom's defender, he'd shifted after discovering their financial truth: credit card debt, hidden loans, a remortgaged house. We'd started weekly calls, our conversations growing honest. "I was jealous," he admitted one night, his voice crackling over the phone. "You had it all job home, Lucas? I bought Dad's story that you were lucky, not that you worked for it." I confessed my own envy, how his easy bond with our parents had felt unattainable. We began a project together. A family healing quilt. Each of us contributing a square. Mine was denim, stitched with a zinnia from Asheville's garden. Ethan's was canvas, painted with a Franklin snow globe. It was a tangible symbol of our new bond, one we were sewing thread by thread. I'd also grown through a Sedona mindfulness retreat, where I'd painted my boundary stone, its weight a reminder of my worth. Back in Denver, I poured my energy into my blog, sharing stories of boundaries and healing, connecting with readers across the country. One post, about Mom's tears in Boulder, drew hundreds of comment strangers sharing their own family struggles. I started a community workshop on financial literacy, teaching others to set boundaries, my voice steady as I spoke of my journey. You are not your family's bank, I told a room of nodding faces, feeling the truth in my bones. These acts blogging, teaching, stitching the quilt were my new roots, grounding me in a life where love didn't demand sacrifice. Dad's progress was slower, but real. He joined a men's support group in Raleigh, confronting his insecurities. I used money to feel strong, he told me during a therapy session, his eyes downcast. I'm sorry, Em. The apology, raw and unpolished, was a seed. Not a bloom, but it mattered. Mom's weekly coffees became a ritual, our talks deepening. One morning, she pulled out a photo from a Franklin Christmas, me atop Dad's shoulders, placing the star on our tree. I miss that girl, she said, tears falling. But I'm proud of the woman you are. Her words, free of leverage, were a gift, a bridge to a new connection. I thought of Nana Rose's letter. Family should lift you. We were learning to lift each other. Not perfectly, but purposefully. The Great Smoky Mountains hikes of my childhood, the Biltmore's candlelit halls, the recipe book's shortbread, they were still mine, but they didn't define me. I opened my mindfulness journal, writing, "Healing isn't a destination. It's a choice. Every day." The quilt lay on my couch, its squares a patchwork of pain and promise. Lucas, ever my anchor, watched me stitch a new square, his hand on mine. "Look at what you're building, Em," he said. I nodded, the needle steady. This wasn't the family I'd dreamed of, but it was real, flawed, fragile, growing. As spring unfolded, I stood in my Denver backyard, the Rockies a distant embrace. I'd planted a zinnia, a nod to Asheville's garden, its roots taking hold in new soil. The blog, the quilt, the workshop, Mom's coffees, Ethan's calls, Dad's apology, they were my new roots, too, stronger for the ashes they'd grown from. I thought of the snow globes on my mantle, their glitter still, like my childhood hopes. I didn't need to shake them anymore. I was creating my own light, my own season. The family I'd lost was gone, but the one we were building, honest, bounded, true, was worth every tear, every fight, every step. I was Emily, not their savior, but their daughter, their sister, myself, and that was enough. X artifact. Notes on the rewrite. Depth and emotion. The section deepens Emily's journey of rebuilding, using the family healing quilt and Sedona retreat to symbolize connection and personal growth. Sensory details. Latte, sunlight, zinnia soil, and vivid settings. Denver café, Raleigh condo. Enhance emotional resonance. Consistency. Characters. Emily, David, Susan, Ethan, Lucas. Settings. Franklin, Tennessee, Denver, Colorado. Asheville, North Carolina, Savannah, Georgia, Boulder, Colorado, Sedona, Arizona, Raleigh, North Carolina, and context. $400,000 mortgage, $50, 000 loans, $150,000 equity loans. Align with Outline A and previous sections for narrative cohesion. TTS suitability. Clear sentence breaks, natural pauses. I paused, the photo heavy in my hands. And conversational phrases. Picture this. A Denver cafe. Sunlight soft, enhanced TTS readability and emotional delivery. New angles. The Quilt and Financial Literacy Workshop add fresh emotional layers, emphasizing Emily's creativity and community impact. Audience appeal. Relatable US. Settings. Denver, Raleigh, Franklin, Asheville. Universal themes of healing and family renewal and emotional authenticity resonate with the 1855 age group. If you're satisfied with this section, I can proceed with the next one. E.g., lights that shine brighter. Or make adjustments to this one. Let me know your preference. Lights that shine brighter. The late June sun warmed my Denver backyard, its golden rays dancing across the patio where I arranged chairs in a welcoming semicircle. The air carried the smoky scent of burgers sizzling on the grill, manned by Lucas, his laughter mingling with the soft hum of a summer breeze. It was my first family barbecue since the Christmas that never was, when Dad's voicemail, "Christmas is off, Emily." Expect a call from my lawyer had shattered my plans and set me on a path to freedom. 6 months later, I'd removed myself from my parents' $400,000 Asheville mortgage, faced their storm of 72 calls, and rebuilt our family on new terms through therapy, boundaries, and hard-won truth. Today, as I set out plates and a pitcher of lemonade, I felt a quiet pride. This gathering wasn't the Franklin, Tennessee Christmases of my childhood pecan shortbread baking, Cheekwood Estate carols, Pumpkinfest joy, but a new tradition, rooted in honesty and love that lifted rather than bound. The lights of our family were shining brighter, and I was ready to bask in their glow. The journey from that December voicemail had been a crucible, forging a stronger version of myself. Growing up in Franklin, I'd believed family meant sacrifice. Co-signing my parents' mortgage in 2016, loaning $50,000, planting zinnias with Mom and Dad in Asheville's community garden to hold our bond tight. But their manipulation, $150,000 in secret equity loans, a Bahamas cruise funded by my emergency check shad, revealed a painful truth. Their love was leverage. I'd fought for freedom, guided by Lucas, Nana Rose's letter from Savannah, my women's empowerment group, and my blog, Breaking Free. The confrontation at Boulder's Riverside Café had cracked their facade, with Mom's tears and Dad's silence exposing their roles. Therapy with Dr. Rachel Kim, the family healing quilt I'd started with Ethan, my Sedona Retreat's boundary stone, they'd all woven a new tapestry, one where I was Emily, not their savior, but their daughter, sister, and self. My parents, David and Susan, arrived precisely on time, a change from their old habit of breezy delays or early arrivals with critiques. Dad carried a store-bought peach cobbler, his awkward smile a far cry from his once commanding presence. "Thought you'd like this," he said, handing me the box. The bakery guy swore it's a crowd pleaser. The gesture, small but thoughtful, was a sign of growth. Mom held a bouquet of sunflowers, their vibrant petals echoing the zinnias I'd planted in my backyard, a nod to Asheville's garden. "Your yard's beautiful, Em," she said, her eyes tracing the flower beds Lucas and I had tended. "You've always had a gift for making things bloom." Her words, free of the old judgment, warmed me like the sun. Ethan arrived with his new girlfriend, Mia, a quiet photographer whose gentle presence softened his edges. "Hope we're not late," he said, hugging me, his canvas square for our quilt tucked under his arm. As we settled around the patio table, the conversation flowed with a lightness I hadn't felt in years. Mom shared a funny story about her alterations business, a customer insisting on a sequined prom dress for a dog. Ethan talked about his graphic design job, his pride in a new logo project. Dad, now mentoring at a Raleigh real estate center, spoke of a young agent he'd helped close her first deal. No one mentioned money, not their condo in Raleigh, my career, or the mortgage that once bound us. It wasn't avoidance, but a shift. Money was no longer our family's language. Connection was. I thought of the snow globes on my Denver mantle, their glitter still, like my childhood dreams. Today, we were creating new memories, ones that didn't need shaking to shine. After lunch, Dad and I found ourselves alone in the kitchen, rinsing plates as Lucas and Ethan debated grilling techniques outside. He leaned against the counter, his gaze on the zinnia beds. "I've been meaning to say something," he began, his voice low, deliberate. "I'm sorry, Emily. Not just for the voicemail, but for years of taking your generosity for granted. I used money to feel in control because I felt like a failure." His eyes met mine, raw and unguarded. "The men's group in Raleigh, the therapy, it's helping me see that. I'm trying to be better." The apology, unpolished but sincere, was a light breaking through clouds. I'd waited for it, once desperately, but now it landed softly, a gift I no longer needed to feel whole. "Thank you," I said, my voice steady. "It means a lot." We carried the cleaned plates outside, the moment simple but profound, a step toward a new bond. Later, as fireflies flickered in the dusk, I launched my community financial literacy workshop, a dream born from my blog. I'd shared my story with a small group in a Denver library, teaching boundary setting and budgeting, my voice strong as strangers nodded in recognition. "You are not your family's bank," I'd said, echoing my empowerment group's wisdom. The workshop was my way of turning pain into purpose, like the zinnias in my yard, blooming from hard soil. I'd also started a new tradition, planting a family tree in our backyard, a young maple whose roots symbolized our growth. Ethan had helped dig the hole, Mom contributed compost, Dad offered planting tips. It was small, but ours, a living promise of a family rebuilt. I opened my mindfulness journal that night, writing, "Family isn't what it was, but what we choose to make it." The family healing quilt lay on my couch, its squares my denim zinnia, Ethan's painted snow globe, Mom's embroidered sunflower a testament to our work. I thought of Nana Rose's words, "Family should lift you." We were learning to lift each other, not perfectly, but intentionally. Mom's coffees, Ethan's calls, Dad's apology, they were lights, brighter for the darkness we'd faced. I planned a simple Christmas at Denver's Botanic Gardens, a brunch with a $20 gift limit, focused on presents, not presents. The holiday no longer loomed with dread, but with possibility. Lucas joined me on the porch swing, the fireflies a constellation around us. "Today was good, Em," he said, his hand in mine. I nodded, my heart full. It's not what I expected, but it's better. It's real. The barbecue had been a milestone, a test of our new dynamic, and we'd passed not with perfection, but with authenticity. I thought of Franklin's Pumpkinfest, Biltmore's Halls, the recipe book's shortbread. They were mine, but so was this the zinnias, the quilt, the tree, the workshop. I'd broken a cycle, not just with my family, but in myself, learning my worth wasn't tied to what I gave others. The summer sun hung low over my Denver backyard, casting a golden glow across the young maple tree I'd planted with my family, its leaves whispering in the June breeze. I stood there, a glass of lemonade in hand, the faint scent of grilled burgers lingering from the barbecue that had just ended. It was a simple gathering: Mom, Dad, Ethan, his girlfriend Mia, Lucas, and me, but it held a weight no Christmas ever could. 6 months ago, my world had cracked open with Dad's voicemail. "Christmas is off, Emily. Expect a call from my lawyer." Those words, cold and final, had shattered my dream of hosting a perfect holiday in my Denver condo. A chance to recreate the Franklin, Tennessee Christmases of my childhood: pecan shortbread baking, Cheekwood Estate carols, Pumpkinfest laughter. But that moment, painful as it was, became the spark that lit my path to freedom, truth, and a family reborn. As I traced the maple's bark, I saw my journey not as a loss, but as a reclamation, a story of breaking chains and planting new roots, one that taught me the power of love that lifts rather than binds. My story began in Franklin, where our colonial home on Maple Street was a beacon of warmth, its Christmas lights brighter than any neighbor's. Dad, David, a real estate developer, filled our lives with booming laughter. Mom, Susan, a part-time librarian, wove stories and shortbread into our days. Ethan and I, the center of their world, raced through Pumpkinfest with caramel apples, marveled at Asheville's Biltmore estate under candlelit glow. But the 2008 financial crisis cracked that facade, and I stepped in, co-signing their $400,000 Asheville mortgage in 2016, loaning $50,000 over years, believing it was my duty. I planted zinnias with them in Asheville's community garden, wrote Christmas wishes in a childhood journal, clung to Mom's recipe book, all to hold our family together. Yet their manipulation: $150,000 in secret equity loans, a Bahamas cruise funded by my emergency check turned love into leverage. Dad's dismissive comments about my marketing career, Mom's judgment of Lucas, Ethan's shrugs, they chipped away at me, leaving me to question my worth. That December voicemail was the breaking point. I'd poured my heart into hosting Christmas, decorating a 9-foot Douglas fir, crafting snow globes, planning a caroling event. But Dad's threat, born from my questions about their spending, exposed the truth. Their love demanded my sacrifice. I responded with one word: understood, and took action. consulting Clara Nguyen and James Patel to remove myself from the mortgage. The process was a storm 72 calls, from anger to panic, as my parents faced their financial reckoning. I volunteered at a Denver food bank, found solace in Nana Rose's Savannah letter, burned journal entries to release guilt, started a blog, Breaking Free, to share my story. On the 28th of December, the bank freed me, and I set boundaries via email. No money requests, acknowledgement of their actions, family therapy. The silence that followed was both heavy and liberating, a space to breathe. The confrontation at Boulder's Riverside Café was a turning point. Clutching my Sedona-painted boundary stone, I faced Mom's tears and Dad's defensiveness, revealing their deception, the cruise, the loans, Dad's lies. Mom's shock, her realization of her passivity, cracked their united front. Therapy with Dr. Rachel Kim peeled back layers. Dad's insecurity, Mom's conflict avoidance, my pain as their anchor. They sold their Asheville home, moved to a Raleigh condo, lived within their means, Dad mentoring at a real estate center, Mom sewing alterations. Ethan and I grew closer, stitching a family healing quilt, our Squares Me denim zinnia, his painted snow globe a symbol of renewal. I launched a financial literacy workshop, taught boundaries, planted a family tree, found peace in Mom's coffees, Dad's apologies, Ethan's honesty. By June, our barbecue was a new tradition, a testament to a family rebuilt on respect, not obligation. This journey wasn't just about freeing myself from a mortgage or setting boundaries. It was about discovering my worth, learning that love doesn't demand my soul. The Franklin Christmases, the Biltmore tours, the recipe book, they're still mine, but they don't define me. I define me through my blog, my workshop, my quilt, my tree. I've learned that family should lift you, as Nana Rose wrote, and that healing is a daily choice. As I stood by that maple, Lucas's hand in mine, I saw a future where Christmas at Denver's Botanic Gardens would be simple, joyful, ours. The lights of our family shone brighter, not because we erased the past, but because we faced it together. The lesson from my story is profound. True love empowers, never exploits. Boundaries aren't walls. They're bridges to healthier relationships, spaces where authenticity can flourish. I learned this by facing Pain Dad's voicemail, Mom's tears, Ethan's growth in choosing myself, not out of selfishness, but necessity. This lesson applies to your life today, whether you're navigating family dynamics, friendships, or work. If someone's love demands your peace, set a boundary. Start small. Say no to a request that drains you, like I did with my parents' loans. Communicate clearly, as I did in my email, stating your needs without guilt. Seek support friends, therapy, or communities like my empowerment group to hold you steady. Reflect, as I did in my journal, to understand your worth beyond what you give others. And give back, as I did through my workshop, turning pain into purpose. In our fast-paced world, where social media glorifies perfection and obligations pile up, this lesson is vital. You might feel pressure to be the perfect child, partner, or friend, but your value isn't in your sacrifices, it's in your authenticity. Try journaling your feelings, as I did, to spot patterns of overgiving. Join a community online forums, local groups, share your story, and find strength. If family demands feel heavy, take a page from my Sedona retreat. Pause, breathe, ground yourself in your truth. Plant your own tree, literal or metaphorical, a project, a hobby, a dream that's yours alone. And when you gather with loved ones, as I did at that barbecue, let it be on terms that lift everyone, not just a few. My journey taught me that breaking cycles is an act of love for yourself, for others, for the family you can become. As you navigate your own path, remember, you are enough, just as you are. Choose boundaries, choose truth. Choose love that shines brighter than any Christmas light. Share your story, as I've shared mine, and let's build a world where we all rise, together, rooted in respect, blooming in freedom. X Artifact.